If you're new to intermittent fasting, or perhaps you've just started playing around with intermittent fasting in order to achieve your weight loss goals, there are a few things that you want to consider in order to achieve best results. Today I'm sharing tips and strategies that you can incorporate to help boost fat burning mechanisms with intermittent fasting in today's video. Alright guys, if you're new to my channel and you don't know who I am, my name's Autumn and I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition human performance. On my channel I'm typically talking about the science-backed and holistic methods that you can use in order to achieve your wellness dreams, so if you have a wellness goal in mind, make sure you subscribe. Okay, so the reason why I want to do this video today is because the AM Peeps and I are starting the 3rd annual Summer Intermittent Fasting Challenge starting on Monday, July 6th. And I know that there's a lot of you guys who are brand new to the concept of intermittent fasting, so I wanted to give you some tips and strategies that you can incorporate right now, especially if you're looking to get started with that summer challenge starting on Monday, July 6th, which if you are interested and you haven't seen the details yet, you can check out the details for the Summer Intermittent Fasting Challenge down the description below. You'll be joining AM Peeps like Jennifer or Corolla or Ashley, so if you are looking to get started with the Summer Intermittent Fasting Challenge, make sure you check out those details down the description below. Okay, so let's dive into those details of today's video. Now, the first thing you really want to consider is setting your window and making sure that it's something that actually fits your lifestyle. And something that isn't talked as much about is making sure that you also ease into the process. So depending on where you're at with your wellness goals, you might be able to jump into a full 16-hour fast, but you might also need to just start with a 12-hour fast instead. So this window does not need to be 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., nor does it even need to be a 16-hour fast to start. In fact, I typically don't recommend starting off with a 16-hour fast right away, especially if you haven't really addressed your food components yet first. Because if you jump straight into that 16-hour fast without first amplifying those natural fat burning mechanisms with what you eat, it can lead to those unstable blood glucose levels, which can make you feel hungry and crave sugar, and ultimately those types of foods that you eat in that state will be much more detrimental to your goals than if you would have just first focused on your food. So when determining your window, whether you start with a 12-hour fast or a 16-hour fast, it's really important that you do structure it around your actual schedule. And you also want to consider your actual history with eating too. Because for example, if you're used to eating every couple of hours, eating right when you wake up, starting at 6 a.m. and then ending at 10 p.m., jumping straight into that 16-hour fast probably isn't a good idea, but instead starting off with a 12-hour fast would be a good way to ease into the process. So instead of immediately eating at 6 a.m., you could just start at 8:30 a.m. and end at 8:30 p.m. to begin with. This fairly small change in itself will provide some really great insulin reducing responses, and that in itself will help to turn on lipolysis or fat burning and help you with that weight loss goal. And what's really great about intermittent fasting is that you don't have to stick with that specific window every single day. This is where it's really important to have that window flexibility for longevity and sustainability of this practice. And this is something I really dive into in the complete intermittent fasting bundle on how to make sure you balance that out. But first things first, it's so important to make sure that you are addressing the eating window that actually fits your schedule and your lifestyle, and also your history of how you eat. And that's where it's going to be highly individualized on what each person's schedule looks like. Okay, the second thing to consider, especially if you're really brand new to intermittent fasting, is that you can use keto coffee or some type of keto tea in order to help with hunger during your fasted state. Now, some people like just using black coffee or unsweetened tea or just water, and that's fantastic. That's amazing. You can definitely go that route if it works for you. But if you do find that you're having difficulties, especially in the beginning of intermittent fasting, of being really hungry during that fasted state because your body hasn't fully adjusted to using fat as fuel yet, this is where keto coffee is a really great tool, because it helps to make it so that you are going to be less hungry during that state. Because when you have the fat that's in the coffee, it makes it so that it triggers the release of CCK or cholecystokinin and tells your brain that you're satisfied and you don't need to eat. However, compared to the other macronutrients of protein and carbohydrates, fat has the least response on insulin, and insulin is that storing hormone. So when you have higher amounts of insulin, it's going to cause your body to really shut off that lipolysis, shut off that fat burning. But by keeping it lower, whether it be with that fasted state or by using keto coffee during your fasted state, that allows the insulin level to naturally just dip back down and allow your body to tap into fat burning mechanisms. So with weight loss as the goal, the reduced insulin response or allowing insulin to dip back down is one of the main goals. And especially if you're new to intermittent fasting and find that fasting period a little difficult in the beginning, that's where keto coffee is a really amazing tool. And there's a variety of ways that you can make this. First of all, just changing out the base. So if you don't love coffee, that's totally fine. You can use tea, and it doesn't even have to be caffeinated tea if you don't do well with caffeine. You could use green tea or black tea or chamomile, whatever it is that you prefer, just making sure that it doesn't contain any carbohydrates or protein, because those will cause more of the insulin response that could break that fast. And these keto coffees and keto teas are something that you can definitely use during the Summer Intermittent Fasting Challenge as a really great option. In fact, you can check out exactly how I make my keto coffee with a video right here. Okay, the third thing to really consider is that you're focusing on satiating foods. Something that you hear me talk a lot about on this channel is the importance of satiety in terms of overall health, but also for weight loss goals. And it's often counterintuitive to what we think of, where we think, you need to be hungry in order to achieve a weight loss goal. But in fact, hunger can really derail your weight loss goals, because when you are in that state of hunger is when our body upregulates those sugar and carbohydrate or starchy carbohydrate cravings. Satiety, or that sensation of feeling full, is your body's way of telling your brain that it doesn't need to eat, or even vice versa, your brain telling your body that you don't need to eat. And this is super important because low levels of satiety can really increase those sugar cravings, and sugar is the biggest instigator of insulin. So by increasing your satiety level of your food, you're inherently decreasing those sugar cravings and decreasing the likelihood that you're going to eat those foods that will boost the insulin. I mean, think about it. When you're really, really hungry and you're in that low blood sugar state, you're probably not thinking about the highest quality foods. You're probably thinking about pizza or french fries or cake or pie or cookies. The thing that all of those foods have in common is that they're really rich in refined carbohydrates and sugars. And those are the biggest things that will cause that huge spike in insulin and really shut off fat burning. So when it comes to weight loss, it's extremely important that we're focusing on these satiating foods to help break that cycle. And as a bonus, those satiating foods will also make it so that your body feels more satisfied for a longer amount of time. And that allows that natural breaks between meals and the natural dip in the insulin levels between meals for further fat burning benefits. And you can check out one of my favorite fat burning break fast recipes that's also within the Complete Intermittent Fasting bundle right here. And needless to say, this optimization of those really satiating factors within food is something that's very prevalent in the recipes within the Complete Intermittent Fasting bundle. Okay, now the fourth thing to consider is your exercise, and probably not what you think I'm going to say. If you're used to a really high carbohydrate diet, or you're used to eating every couple of hours, the first 1 to 2 weeks of intermittent fasting, you might feel a little bit lower in energy. And this is natural. This is a result of your body just simply forgetting how to use fat as fuel, and therefore not having access to that fat energy quite yet. Typically, depending on how you previously would eat, it can take anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks for your body to readjust and start to really increase fat burn again, and really start to increase energy levels as a result as well. Some people will feel it immediately, some people it can take that 1 to 2 weeks. And this is where easing into intermittent fasting can also be a really good idea, just like what we talked about with easing into intermittent fasting with that first strategy. Eventually, the more often that you use intermittent fasting paired with those really high quality satiating foods, like I talked about earlier with the Complete Intermittent Fasting bundle, the better your body will get at using fat as fuel. In fact, one of the AM peeps regularly shares on Instagram his complete running routine he does in a completely fasted state. So it's kind of a myth on the fact that you have always low energy levels with intermittent fasting. It's really just the result of not being able to tap into fat burning mechanisms quite yet. But the more often you use that fasting period paired with those high quality foods, the better your body will get at using fat as fuel and will allow your energy levels to naturally increase. But in the beginning, if you do experience this lower energy state because your body hasn't really relearned how to use fat as fuel, it's a good idea to just taper back a bit on your exercises, or at least the exercise intensity. For example, if you're used to doing one really long run per week, then you'll want to consider either decreasing the pace or the distance as your body adjusts to using fat as fuel. And the same goes with strength training. You might want to either decrease the time spent doing strength training, or you might want to decrease the weights that you're using right now. So for example, in the Complete Intermittent Fasting bundle, there's a 3-week workout plan where it does give you a variety of workouts you can perform with 3 rounds of each. In this circumstance, you could just do 1 round or 2 rounds, or use a less weight or just body weight during that first 1 to 2 weeks if you do have that lower energy state. Now keep in mind, this might not be necessary for everyone. Not everyone experiences low energy in that first 1 to 2 weeks. Typically, it's a result of if you're used to eating every couple hours, or you're used to a very high carbohydrate diet. Some people feel immediately energized, but if you are in that lower energy state during that first 1 to 2 weeks, then these are some items that you can consider. And even if you take workout classes, whether it be in person or online with the free videos online, then you can still use this strategy of just decreasing the weights that they suggest, or just decreasing the intensity overall that you perform during the workout. And you'll know it's time to start increasing your intensity and getting back to that normal training routine when you start to feel that energy level is increasing. And again, that typically can take between 1 to 2 weeks. Now, Summer Intermittent Fasting Challenge starts on Monday, July 6th. It's a 4-week long challenge, and I'm really excited about it. So if you want the details on how you can join in and join the AM peeps as well, make sure you check it out down in the description below. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.